the same damn thing.
I said the very thing to Chris, who sometimes we mistakenly refer to as Eric. That's a long story. I'll come back to that. But I had a very lengthy conversation with him about that Monday or Tuesday. I don't remember, earlier this week. And that's exactly right. What if we're talking about the same thing in two different languages, right? Where science is speaking this language, religion is speaking this language, but ultimately we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. It's often my opinion that a lot of the religions are talking about the same thing, and they end up getting the name of God seems to bother them a lot, and they get into wars and such. But I think a lot of time they might be talking about the same thing too, especially with these things that are watching us, or these extraterrestrials, angels, call them what you like, right? Who knows what these things are and how long they've been here? Who knows if there are our makers? Very, very interesting stuff. I want to bring Chris on if he's around.
Yes. So we have Chris. I'm adding him to our stream right now.
Okay.
Hello, Chris. And I also
guys.
have. So while you guys were chatting, Chris sent me 2 emails involving the conversation that you were speaking on and the currency, and I have them loaded up because we have this new computer that can do stuff like that.
Wow, you're spiffy, Mr. Producer.
So here we go. Chris, these are the 2 videos you sent me moments ago.
The back of the US dollar actually resembles an alien.
Take a picture of a $1 bill on the back.
It looks like an alien.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, you turn the contrast all the way up. And yeah, the contrast reveals an alien head and the face, the eyes, everything. It's kind of genius. What's in your pocket?
Yeah, Roswell.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's exactly what Aleister Crowley said they look like.
Yeah.
His familiar that he visited with had the same kind of shaped head. So maybe that's what, you know my view on things. Maybe that's what the fallen angels look like.
Yeah.
And
maybe.
they've been around. But I mean, seriously, that alien face on the $100 bill. I just saw that earlier today. I was like, oh crap, I gotta show that to Manu. That's crazy.
No, dude, I have to get I have to go buy them. I have to see that for real. I need $100 bill.
Well, they're also on the 10, the 20, the 5, and I couldn't find the TikTok video, but they're on Canadian currency. They're on British pounds. They're on. Yeah, I'll dig them up and send them.
Have you checked it for yourself? Have you?
I have, yeah. Because there's another conspiracy with currency regarding 9/11. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've seen the Twin Towers. Yeah, I've seen that.
But see, that's the whole thing about supposedly the people in the shadows that run the world. They broadcast their plans and their intentions because their belief is if we miss it, that's on us, not their problem. So
Chris, I want you to do me a favor. I want to see this for myself. I've got a microscope. What I'd like you to do is take a $100 bill, put it in an envelope, mail it to 232 Penn Street, and I'll get back to you.
Dude, I never have cash on me anymore. It's crazy, but I should definitely do it for myself. I mean, I did like years ago because when I saw there was this guy called Jonathan Kleck. He's a Christian guy, but he was also looking at all the conspiracy and all this stuff. And like, he really went into amazing detail with all the currency. And there's another one that has to do with the Hoover Dam. And I forget what bill it's on, but it's crazy. I mean, this guy found all the symbolism and links and all this other stuff.
what are these things staring at us out the windows of those bills? They look like almost creepy, like secret
Yeah.
society demon masks or something.
I guess the question is who designs the plates that print those bills, right? Like
Yeah.
what was in that person's mind who's creating these images that we burn onto the plate that we use? Is he commanded to put those things in there? Is it
Well,
just his imagination? Is it?
I can tell you a little bit about that because I worked as a contractor with the Secret Service for 2 years back in the late 90s.
Hold on, they want to hear this. Hold on, they're listening.
Yeah,
They're
Go ahead,
already
go ahead.
listening.
Oh, they're already listening, buddy. Trust me.
Yeah.
And I was working in the counterfeit and cybercrime division. I was supporting 2 special agents, and these guys were really cool and barely knew anything about technology. As a matter of fact, my job was to design and launch the first website for the Secret Service, which I did. And that was fun. It was cool. But I got to hang with these guys, and they showed me a lot of the inside craft and the work. And I actually got to see some of the plates. You know, they were behind locked glass and stuff. And I asked him, I was like, who designs this stuff? He's like, it's almost kind of like a secret. None of us know. He said, I've got friends over at Bureau of Printing and Engraving. And he said, there's like this secret room and nobody really knows who does it. So and at the time I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But now that you're saying it, like it raises a lot of questions. Why so much secrecy about when, how, and where, and who designs these engraving plates?
And why on earth would an alien be on our dollar bill like that? Come on.
Exactly.
There are two rational, one is if you knew the person, right, you wouldn't want to make that public because that person could be, coerced into reproducing a pretty good fake. But then the conspiracy side of me says, is it a person?
I'm sorry. That video freaked me out.
Or it's a normal guy inspired by dark spirits.
Yeah. It's got to be World Bank, right? It's got to be you said the Bureau of Printing. Who prints our money?
We do,
right?
In DC and Denver, Philadelphia, and I don't know if they do it in Chicago or not anymore. But if you come to DC, you can tour the Bureau of Printing and Engraving, and you can see them.
And it's a
printing
mix
the
of
sheets
linen
of
and
money.
paper, right? It's linen and paper. It's a blend.
Yeah, it's a special paper with white, red, and blue fibers in it, and it's a top secret mixture. And in fact, one of the cool cases that I got to hear about is someone had found where the paper had been produced by a company, and a big gang of thieves, like international terrorist kind of people, had actually stolen some of the rolls of paper. But that's only one ingredient because it's like multiple steps, and it's like compartmentalization. So, like 12 different people only have one ingredient, one part to the process, but all of it's delivered to BIP, and they put everything together there. But that was like 97, 98, 99. And I'm sure the technology is way, way more advanced now. And in fact, the $100 bills have a tiny little microchip in them.
You scared Manu away. He's straight ran. While money has evolved over time, right? Like the fibers and the little strip, and then there's the black light. All this stuff has evolved over time. But the actual feel of the paper money, I don't know that that's changed so much, because I've had a dollar bill from 1939 and I felt it, and then I had a dollar bill from 2020 and I felt it, and the material felt the same. Now, yes, there are the colored threads that weren't in the old one. There's all the black light stuff that wasn't in the old one, but the actual feel of the money, I feel like that's been around for 100 years.
Well, the substrate is the same. They just add more security features into it.
All around the bill. Yeah, it's got much more complex. Our money was pretty simple, actually, back when I was a kid. I want to talk about the Great Reset and the Great Resets through time. Have you you sent me a book about a picture of a book about a week ago? Have you dug into it at all?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's kind of weird, man. It's got my like after I read it, I had a hard time falling asleep because my brain was like, wait a minute, holy crap, wait, no, that can't be. It's like I was going on for like an hour and a half. I just lay in the bed,
Yeah.
like just picturing all this stuff. And I'd love to plug a guy. If you, I mean, he's
Yeah,
like
yeah, go
really
ahead.
into this. It's I got to look up his.
I'd love to do a whole program on the resets and somebody that would chat with us, and it was like
I'm gonna drop his. I hope he doesn't get mad at me for sharing this. I'll drop his X handle in the chat.
Yeah, he's not gonna be mad at us for that.
Yeah, but dude, this guy, man, he digs and digs and digs, and everything he posts, I'm just like, it's mind blowing. I'm like, wow, it just changes the way you think. And I sent you, I think one of his tweets actually before the show started, and it had to do with lasers
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah, yeah.
buildings and old ancient structures. I was like, man, this guy, I feel like a kid for Christmas now. I'm like, I found something really exciting on Twitter. I've been
Yeah.
asking this guy questions, bugging him, retweeting his stuff. He's a cool guy.
Well, earlier too, you mentioned that that in the reason we call this series that we've been doing, science fiction versus reality, is they very much do seem to tell us the stories through films and through television, and they seem to give us hints about what real reality is, and they seem to show it almost barefaced to us, but they present it as fiction, and we all go, oh, wouldn't that be cool? But now there's all these credible CIA and NSA and ex-NSA rocket scientists, real smart people looking into whether these things, well, not whether, but where these things exist, what they want, what they're doing. And it seems to me like that brings up the reset for me, because I think back and I go, okay, when was the great biblical flood? When was the mud flood? I don't know when the mud flood was in
Tartaria, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know when they think it was? Is it the same as the biblical flood, or is it a completely different?
I mean, if I may get this wrong, so don't hold it against me, but it could have been as recent as 150 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So,
so I get a little creeped out because the lady from Project Blue Book, she said on the show UFO Witness, she goes, I'm going to go a little off the script here and just say that, I think we're doomed. And I was like, what? So if these things are obviously technologically ahead of us, they're obviously on some different level of consciousness ahead of us in some way, shape, or form, whether they're aliens or angels or fallen angels or both, and all of that exists. I tend to watch, just when I left today, I was watching a show called Angels and Demons by Neil Gaiman, who seems to be obsessed with the whole Lucifer, fallen angel, gods that hit the ground and their powers and etc. Almost all his books and materials are about secret lands, secret cities below London, gods and demons. So this mud flood from 150 years ago, can you give us the listeners a sort of like a condensed version of what the theory is and why people think it's real?
Well, so the book I'm going through now, it shows major cities like Salt Lake, Phoenix, either Seattle or Olympia, San Francisco. I mean, major cities that we're all familiar with. And it talks about the architecture of these buildings. And then put that in contrast with the Wild West and the Gold Rush. And you see these cities that are super modern, and then people are rolling into town on a horse and buggy. They're just kind of postulating like the architecture doesn't match the mode of transportation. And the one thing that really blew my mind in this book was looking at the Erie Canal and the way that they were talking about this. That thing was like, I don't know, 40 feet down into solid granite. And they said it was built over a very short period of time. But we didn't have the technology to do that even 150 years ago. And that's kind of what this thing is pointing out, saying there's a lot of weird things. And even in some of the pictures, it looks like they were either recently modified, like dates changed on the building, like, Roman numerals. Like if you look at the pictures, you can see like one of them is kind of like poorly erased. And I think it showed a picture of the Mormon tabernacle in Salt Lake. And they were claiming, well, this is a picture of men doing the construction, but some guy did photo forensics on it. And they're like, oh, these, we call them not a crane, but like winches for lifting material up off the ground, smaller than a crane, but something like that. And the guy's actually on there. They're like, these things were actually added to the photograph.
Wow, that's weird.
How do we explain things like the Pantheon, that have this half the size of a football field, solid granite, 10 feet high, weighing 1 million tons, obviously was not part of the natural, rock there. It was transported in a solid slab.
Hey,
2,000 years ago, 3,000.
Cassie, I'm going to send Cassie another quick video.
Great.
Right now.
The resets are so cool to me because also there was a video on the Chinese Olympics, and basically the whole opening ceremony was, if you ever can find this video on YouTube, the whole opening ceremony was this guy that made the video believes that the opening ceremony in the Chinese Olympics was actually a story of all the resets that they know about through time. And
the big performances they do.
Yeah.
I've heard that there's a lot of symbolism in all those shows. I
don't know what they're called because I don't know a lot about the mud flood and the resets. That's why I brought it up. I was hoping.
Oh, I don't either. I'm like literally this
just
week
started, right?
Yeah,
so supposedly there's these things called stargates that are, or star somethings that are in architecture all over the planet.
Yeah.
One of them's underneath the Statue of Liberty, and they've built, according to the the reset theory, is they've built our structures and some of our structures on top of these ancient structures that have been around for a while. And these I don't know if they're called stargates or exactly what they're called. They're star something or other, but they can be found literally all over the planet,
all over the world.
Yep. And a lot of times another temple or another building of some kind is built on top of this structure that was obviously there before they built the building. Sounds similar to Oak Island. Nobody seems to know how that well was built or how deep it is for a start. Yeah, Oak Island's certainly a strange thing too. Like the technology that they had to go down that deep and make all those antechambers, and today we can't do anything to get down there without setting off that trap.
Yeah, it's like when you look at all the megalithic structures, most archaeologists and historians are like, said, well, we had steel chisels and wood mallets and hammers, and they're saying the same thing about the pyramids. And these stones weigh several hundred tons a piece, and they're fit together so tightly you can't even fit like a playing card between them.
Yeah, and there's today we couldn't do it. I always say, hey, where are the stonemasons of today? Why aren't we building big, cool stone things? Wouldn't that be neat? I think people would be into doing it. It's because we can't. I mean, I've seen people try to move big boulders off of like landslides. That's difficult enough for us with the cranes that we have to pick up rocks, let alone.
Where do we have those big H blocks? Is that Puma Punka that has
Puma
big
Punku,
H blocks?
Yeah.
That are so precisely cut that it would be hard to do that today.
Yeah, and then there's the mega. They've done ground penetrating radar on that place too, and it's ancient. It's possibly like 20,000 years old. If anybody is interested in this stuff, Graham Hancock is a great author to look at. He's also got a show on Netflix about ancient.
I feel like we have a video coming by the format. So,
let's
Cassie,
do it.
You have the video.
That was a laser. That was a laser cutting.
Laser carving, and the Twitter thread that Tataria has in there shows all this stuff. Like there's this, they call it a step well. It's in India, and they were saying that these were all carved by hand. Now, if you think in the recent past, and you and I have been talking, we've been friends a couple of years now, and I told you, I'm thoroughly convinced that men before us were far more advanced, especially with technology. And you got a big ship with a massive laser like that, and you find this huge area of granite. You shoot that laser down, you carve whatever design you want. There's no debris because the laser burns it up. And that's sort of the same by all these sites. They're like, where did they carry all the debris?
Yeah, where's the debris pile
from the digs? Where is it?
Yeah.
So
and the Iliad of Homer. So we have what? We have Atlantis. We have I mean, there are those thoughts of ancient technology that's been lost, either ancient or influenced or alien or deity, or again, are we saying the same thing in different terminology? You and I, Chris, talked the other day, and we were talking about the Bible, and we were talking about deities, and I brought up the point that by definition, God is not a human being. He was not born on Earth, and therefore, by definition, is an extraterrestrial. Now, whether you say God or whether you say ET, we're talking about the same thing, right? We're talking about a non-human intelligent entity out there. And so I wonder, when we talk about ancient Earth history, whether it be deity or whether it be mortal extraterrestrial, corporeal extraterrestrial, whatever you want to call it, I wonder how much of that, think about the Bible when they say, was it Moses that went up on a flaming chariot? And then you think about rockets. How would that be described in the ancient day?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually it was Elijah that was
Elijah.
Elijah. Yeah.
Hold on, let me get a little more in me, and
I
then
knew
I'll get that right.
I knew our resident Christian was going to hit you with that.
There we go. It wasn't Moses. Moses parted the Red Sea. But yeah, so Elijah went up.
It would take quite a bit of technology to part the Red Sea, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Katie's like, oh, the Goa'uld built the pyramids.
The who?
The Goa'uld. We got to get the Stargate plug in there.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to ask Warren. He'll know more about that.
Yeah.
There you go.
I
knew there was I knew there was a rational answer. Thank you, Katie.
Well, I look at all this stuff, and like I keep saying on this show, Tyson always says amoeba does the amoeba analogy about things that only have one sense, and we've got five, but five seems very limited for seeing what our reality actually is. I love the idea of flat Earth too. Like, let's take it all the way to crazy land. I love the idea. Tyson was talking about bed sheets and how universes could exist on top of universes in that manner, like a loaf of bread. And I wonder why couldn't ours? Why we could be living on a flat two-dimensional plane that appears to be completely different than that.
Galileo, back in his day, was considered a heretic for his teachings, right? That the Earth wasn't the center of the universe, that he believed it went around the sun, and he was ahead of his time. And the Christians of the day considered him heretical. Today, the Pope, every other Christian I know believes that the Earth is a planet, it goes around the sun. It's not heretical at all. Religion and science can exist at the same time. What 500 years from now will Christians be accepting of that they are not today? Could this be a multi-plane reality? Could God and extraterrestrials exist simultaneously?
Why not?
500 years from now, Christians might be very accepting of that, where 1,000 years from then, 500 years ago from now, Galileo was a heretic.
Well, if I went back in time,
But he was
500
right.
years with my smartphone, they'd burn me as a witch. So
Mhm.
that's just difference between time. And,
500. If you went back 150 years in Boston, Massachusetts, you'd be burned as a witch.
Yeah,
500.
yeah, 500. I don't have to go back that far. That's good.
No.
It's nice to know that I only have to take a short trip to get burned as a witch. I think all this stuff is real, man. I'm telling you, the more I look around too at the world, the more I think we're in some sort of beautiful simulation. And you talk about science and you talk about religion existing at the same time. I think these guys got to get together, because
Yeah.
I look
Yeah.
around and I see an encoded world that is very much a simulation. Our DNA, the encoding that is required for photosynthesis, for all the ways that things live, and all the different coding that has to go on within our body, the universes that exist within our own body of different organisms and etc. They all have a code. They all have a mathematical code written into them, how they work, right? You look.
I'm sorry, we're laughing at Katie. That was brilliant.
Katie.
I love it.
So that cats would have pushed everything off it by now. I've seen that before. That's
funny.
Yeah.
Hey, Cassie,
No,
I,
but
sent, I sent you another clip.
Katie, the cats could
Yeah.
not push everything up over the ice wall. Cats
Yeah.
do not
Yeah,
have the power to get stuff up over the ice wall.
So, Manu, what you said made me think of another clip I just watched recently, because we're both into film, and I always tend to remember things like that they put in the movies, and I'm like, wow, that's a really interesting perspective. How odd. And I sent Cassie a clip from the Gods of Egypt film, and then you think about the Marvel film, like with Thor, how they showed Asgard as like this kind of flat thing just floating out in space, right?
Yeah.
You go all through, the myth. I mean, most human beings thought the world was flat for a long, long, long time. So, and I'm not here saying it is or it's not, whatever. I don't know.
Me either.
But
by the way,
it's interesting.
It's just super interesting.
Yeah.
And I think I'm almost certain that our reality is way more interesting than we could possibly imagine.
It's definitely more complicated than we can imagine.
And then
I absolutely believe that.
Yeah.
One thing that I have to say, and if you take a look, let me move this over here. You'll see I've got, push that out of the way, a lot of radios here, and all of these radios work on the principle of around Earth, right? How the radio wave goes, it bounces off the E layer, it goes back down. And it doesn't take too much to realize when you look out over the horizon, if the world was flat, you could see beyond 33 miles. 33 miles is basically the curvature of the Earth. And so you can see, if you were out in Ohio where it's nice and flat, you could see 33 miles, and then that's the horizon. Now we know it's bigger than, the world is not 33 by 33, right? It goes much further.
Well,
but you can't see much further because there's a curvature.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of Masonic symbolism in the math and the numbers that they tell us about the Earth, about the circumference, about measurements. They're all roots of the number 33. And the Masonic, all these guys, their symbolism, they put it in everything. Even in the logo of NASA, that's actually a serpent's tongue.
Yeah.
And if you spell NASA backwards, it actually means an ancient Hebrew word of like deceiver or something like that. I don't know.
Well, look at the medical caduce.
Yeah.
Is a staff with two serpents, right? A winged staff with two serpents.
Yeah.
And the guy that told me aliens were real, Mr. Buzz Aldrin, was a 33rd degree Mason, and he said when he landed on the moon, he was doing some Masonic stuff as well in that.
And it's interesting that it's 33 miles is the curvature, to the point where the horizon, and as a Coast Guard, same thing, because the ocean is basically flat. You don't have hills and valleys, you can see 33 miles. And then, beyond that, you start to go beyond the horizon.
So, I was thinking of joining the Masons. You think that's a bad idea, Chris?
I told you that's a terrible idea. Don't do that.
If you
Oh,
like
really?
bricklaying, go ahead.
Well, I'm fascinated by this. By this
They don't
whole
tell you
thing.
the secrets till you get all the way to the top, man. There's a few
I used
former
to be a
Masons
climber.
out there that former guys that were 33rd degree, and they spill the beans. They tell you, about all the secret oaths and all the weird ceremonies, and
It's all
I
So
mean,
very.
you
it's
start
just
you
bizarre
start as a
stuff.
1-degree Mason, and then you're a 2-degree Mason, and then a 3
You
all
have
the
to
way
do
up
the-
to 33.
You have to do the first 3 to be considered a Mason.
Yeah.
For real. You got to do
Yeah.
the first 3 degrees, and then you can pick to go to one of the other side. There's like the
Yeah.
Scottish Rite side, and then there's another side. I have a couple of old Mason books from like the 1800s that were just granted to me by my lady's my lady's father, but
Yeah.
her great grandfather was a Mason, and he had these old Masonic books. So
Well,
these guys definitely know a lot about what's going on that we don't.
Yep.
Speaking of circumference, I had a boyfriend that lied about his.
Oh my God.
All right. And now it's time for the 10 worst ways to greet somebody. Tyson, go for it.
Circumference. No, the 10 worst ways.
I hate the
let me-
tuba. I hate
Well,
the
you
tuba.
go you go to shake their hand, and they say, "Sir, that's not my hand."
Or how about
How
when somebody shakes your hand and they do that little thing with their finger in your palm? Oh, I hate that.
Ugh.
I hate
Yeah.
that one.
Oh, that just means I give them my hotel room key. We do have some people on standby. I see that we have Zach, and we're coming on 50 minutes, so we probably want to start taking some
Yeah, let's
speakers.
take some callers and see if we get lucky. Maybe some people know about the reset, or
Yeah.
And some of what we haven't spoken a lot about is the different movies that have given us a little peek at the realities that they're finding now. I brought up They Live. I think everybody and their mother should sit down and watch.
Absolutely watch that movie.
Yeah.
The Day the Earth Stood Still was another great one.
Oh yeah. No.
All right, Legacy Zach, what's up?
What's up, fellas? So
What's
now
happening?
this is going down the rabbit hole.
Whoa, the rabbit hole goes deeper than we
It-
could
it-
ever
it does.
believe.
It does. Yeah, and I guess my question is about the Freemason thing. How far would it take? Like you said, 3 degrees. That makes sense. That you are finally a Mason, but how far does it go till you finally start diving more into the secrets? Like, I have a great grandfather that was a gatekeeper. He just like he stood there at the beginning of the meetings pretty much. So, but like, would he be the one that knows a little bit more?
Well, I think I mean, I'm not certain because I haven't joined the Masons yet, but I have had I do know a number of friends that are Masons, and so they've shared a little bit with me. But most of my friends that are Masons stopped at the 3rd degree, and they just kind of got sick of it, and they.
What? Now, how do you even get into the club? Like, there's a Mason building right down here in Ramona, believe it or not. Can I just knock on the door and say, "Hey, here's $50. Can I apply for membership?"
No,
like,
you don't
how do you?
No, you just have to sell your soul. You don't even have to.
gotta sell.
You don't even
What is
have to.
that all?
Yeah.
and you gotta have family that was in the Masons too.
No, the truth of the matter is, you just have to ask. You have to know a Mason, and you have to ask them. They're not like Christians, or they're not going out trying to spread the word.
Well, there were some Masonic rites that had a lot of Christianity involved.
Oh, for
in the
sure.
ritual.
No, but what I'm saying is Masons aren't out there looking for people to join. You're.
Yeah, they're not out evangelizing. Join the Mason. No, of
Yeah,
course not.
So
I mean, that would make for a very poor secret society, right?
Yes. Right. So you have to meet a Mason, and you have to ask them, "Hey, can I join?" I think there's a few rules, like no violent felonies, no this or that or the other. But pretty much anybody can join as long as you ask. And then what happens, because I've gone through the beginning steps, you get turned on. if you ask one of your friends who's a Mason, they turn you on to a local lodge in your area. And then you have to go there and meet those people. And those people, after a couple of dinners, couple of barbecues, a few satanic sacrifices to hell, and Bastille, or whatever his name is, then you can. What did I just say? No, after a couple of barbecues with these people, they decide whether you're good material for their lodge or not, and then they do a vote on whether you can join. And then you have to go study the first 3 degrees.
You call it burning a sacrifice. I call it steak on the barbecue. It's fine. It's fine.
I wonder if the Masons have anything to do with Bohemian Grove.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Wouldn't be
I'm
surprised.
sure they all are. Even like, the Skull and Bones, and there's all kinds of these elite societies, and everybody, our leaders, senators, congressmen, cabinet guys, CEOs, they're all in these, exclusive club.
And-
Even at Disney, there's Club 33. Walt Disney had an exclusive private Masonic lodge at Disney World.
Mhm.
So you guys
George
could do a whole show
Washington.
in Mason. Yep.
George Washington, the
Yep.
first president of the United States of America, was he not a 33rd degree Mason?
Yeah, that's what we're told.
He was, but he wasn't Scottish Rite. There's actually two major, I guess, denominations, if you will. It's a Christian term, but
Then he wasn't a 33rd degree Mason, from what I know, because I think one side only goes to 16 or something, and one goes to 33.
I may be wrong about that.
Yeah, I think the Scottish Rite is the side that goes to 33. So he may have been a master Mason, but he wasn't 33rd degree Scottish Rite.
Well, look, if you're bending more than 33, they now have pills to fix that. I've seen the carrot commercial.
Damn, Tyson. Oh man, you just made me curse the Lord in front of my friend Chris. I hate when I say that. I really
Look,
don't.
I'm the comic relief. That's my job.
Yeah,
if
I know.
I'm not telling jokes, I'm going to get fired, and then all of a sudden, Zach's going to be your new host.
Yeah, no. What I love is I've been hanging around a lot of my Christian friends lately, so they're all pushing Jesus on me, and
Am I pushing Jesus on you? I am not.
Well, not in a hard
No,
way. You're
not
like sitting me
overtly.
down and go, Mona, you've got to read Romans. You've got to. But my friend Pete did the other day, and I'll bring this up right now because I found it very strange. He said, "Hey, Manu, you got to read this chapter of Romans. Romans is by Paul the apostle." And he said, "You have to admit in your heart that you are these things." And it was like Romans 9 something. I don't remember, but the thing that I found weird is there were all these sins in there that man is guilty of, and one of them was being angry at the Creator and actually cursing, the Creator himself, itself, whatever you want to say God is. And I honestly, in my heart of hearts, have never had that experience. I've never been angry at the Creator of the universe. And
But as humans, we tend to do that, right? Like if something bad goes, like your wife dies, or
like
something.
I've said the words God damn, but I've never actually meant it in that way.
Why, God? Why?
Yeah, I've never done that. I've never
Yeah.
done that. I've been mad. I'm an angry individual. Don't get me wrong. I've been angry my whole life, but I've been angry at society. I've been angry at man. I've been angry at my parents, the DEA, the CIA, the NSA, the Homeland Security, the whole creepy DARPA world.
Well, being angry at evil is actually a righteous thing.
Oh, see, yeah, I've just never, ever, and I honestly can say this, looking straight into the camera with my heart of hearts, I've never been mad at the Creator. I just don't understand that. I think that it's a very fundamentally Christian thing, right?
Because you were never mad at him, or because being mad at him might be eternal damnation,
No,
which
I find
tempers our anger a bit. Seriously, I'm not joking.
even as a little kid, I've always known on some level that we were here to learn suffering, pain, hard, flat, tall, short. We were here to experience pain, pleasure, and everything in between. And people were going to die, and all that stuff was going to happen. And I was going to experience mad pain. But I never have ever gone, why, oh God, do you put me through this pain? It just doesn't.
I will. I have, and let me explain. I am, and this is no secret, an openly gay man. I am not, how can I put this? I'm not a lustful person. Like I'm not in it for the sex. I am attracted to the male spirit, right? If I were to be abstinent my whole life, or if I were to force myself to have sex with women for the rest of my life, I would still be a gay man that had sex with women for the rest of his life. Gay is, I mean, I'm gay. That's all there is. But then when I read the Bible and everything, and it's like homosexuality is a sin. It's like, why did you give me this? Why am I attracted to men and not women?
Why have
No
you
matter
given
how
me this
hard,
malady?
no matter how hard I've tried to be. By the way, it's never gotten hard, but how hard I've tried to be for women, I can't. They're not. But men, oh my God, men. Hi,
Well,
Zach.
that was part of that.
But I'm just saying. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that was
Zach's like, bye. But
my-
seriously, like, why is that? And yeah, because in Christianity, I'm a sinner because of this attraction that I have no control over. I can control what I do with it. Yes. When they say gay is a choice, no. Sex is a choice.
Yeah.
Sex is a choice.
Yeah.
Gay
All
is
right.
not a choice.
Can I answer your question, Mr. Angry
Yeah.
Guy?
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I think, honestly, I think Jesus, and I wouldn't even consider myself necessarily like labeled a Christian, but I don't think Jesus had any problem with anybody that came to him, gay, straight, whatever. I think he taught the old law is gone and the new law is empathy and love thy neighbor and turn the other cheek and all that stuff. I think he taught love. And I think if you were actually really going to take Christianity seriously, you'd really have to go back to, I think the book has been changed so many times. King James, Constantine, back when it was canonized in 300 AD, those books, you would have to learn ancient Greek, Latin, to really understand whether is that a church thing or is that a Christian thing? Because a lot of the major churches will teach that to be a Christian, you have to believe that gay people are bound for hell. But I don't think that I think you can be a Christian and still be gay.
I personally believe that God cares more about what is between my ribs than what's between my legs. That's my own opinion. But again, I think there is choice involved with regard to the sexual act, but there's not choice involved when it comes to
you're born
attraction.
You're
right?
Born
That's and again, there's a long story between Mike and I. We are going through divorce, but sex has not been a part of our life for a while now. By the way, that's not the reason for the divorce. The divorce is because he's had lots of sex and I haven't. So that causes that can cause a divorce.
Well, unfaithfulness to a partner is a painful thing.
Yeah,
whatever
it's a very painful thing. Whatever the circumstance.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change my love or my, when he's home and we lie in bed together, not sexually, just, when I'm falling asleep and he's sleeping next to me, I feel complete. I feel safe. I feel good. When he's gone, I feel like a piece of me is missing. And that is the connection that when I say I'm gay, that I have with men, not the act. And so many conservative, Republican, ultra-right Christians will go to, it's all about the sex. It's all about the act of perversion. And nobody ever talks about the comfort of that
Just plain
person,
old love.
holding their
Plain old
hand,
love,
and
yeah.
the love that any
Mhm.
couple might have. That is the most important. Sex might be a 5-minute thing, twice a week. It's the other 99.5% that's important,
Well,
and yet
Mr.
nobody
Jesus,
talks about that.
Mr. Jesus Christa also said something in the Bible, and I don't know where it is, but he talks about all these major churches that will develop, that will bend his word and twist his word and fuck his word up
It's in Revelation.
in
The
Revelation.
seven churches,
Yeah, and
different kinds of churches.
And I always think of organized Christianity as possibly those places that Jesus was talking about, and that to be a Christian and to be a man of God or a man of Jesus and to give your heart to Jesus is maybe a thing that doesn't have anything to do with a church and just has to do with you and
The red letter Bible, which is the word spoken by Jesus, right? He never once mentions it. And you would think that if it was this awful, horrible, the whole world's going to end because of homosexuality, that he might have mentioned it once or twice the whole time he was on the planet.
The term Christian was actually coined by Constantine. Back in the early church, it was called the way, because Jesus said, "Follow me." So it's basically about following his example.
Right.
And some of the terms like Latin, and there's a lot of symbology in the Bible about, the left and the right. Well, sin is short for sinister. So, like in Spanish or Latin, sinister is the left. And right. So God's always saying, well,
left-handed.
I forget where it is in the Bible, but he says,
the right hand of God.
I give to you life
Yeah.
or death. And he says, life is in my right hand and death is in my left hand. And it's also an archery term for missing the mark. So, there's a lot of different churches that teach different things. And I think God most certainly looks at the intent of your heart. And homosexuality is not the only sin. I know a lot of Christians get caught up on that, or at least what is talked about in the Bible. What about lying and stealing and murdering and adultery and just all kinds of other things? It's like any one of these, you're falling short from God's, desired purpose or in your life. That's the way I understand it. And I'm not a theologian by any measure, but I think there are a lot of things that have been changed. I've heard people argue about homosexuality being added. I don't know. I'm not a deep Bible scholar or anything, but I think the important thing is Jesus said, if you love your neighbor as yourself, so you've loved God and you love your neighbor as yourself, these two alone, you're fulfilling all the heart of the law. It's about treating others with love.
And that's what the Bible is about, right? It is a set of ethics and morals. It is primarily about love, kindness, taking in your neighbor. I mean, this is what it's about. And to me, that is the God I worship, the God of love, the God of compassion, of kindness, the Creator, and I feel connected.
An angry God. I can't imagine this thing God being angry. Honestly.
Oh, some of the Christians I've met, debauchery and all these awful, go out and do all these horrible things, but they're straight. I'm gay, which makes me 10 times worse than any other person on the planet.
Yeah, but are you mad at God for that, or are you mad at man's interpretation of the word?
Why is it that being gay is a sin, but judge not lest ye be judged is not a sin? They can go ahead and judge all they want.
Sounds like you're angry at other humans, not God.
I'm angry at Katie. No, I'm not angry at Katie. I love Katie, but Katie
suck.
has been waiting to speak. So
let's
give Katie a turn.
Yes.
Katie, what do you think? Let's get off of religion and back onto science and weird reality, unless you have something to say about God, because who knows?
No, nothing at all. Absolutely nothing. I don't do God. But no, it's a little thingy. But no, I was actually doing some research earlier about with this being sci-fi versus reality, and a lot of things predicted in science fiction and technology from science fiction has um it
Ended up being
is
reality.
actually in yeah, it's actually in use today or something very similar that it's been based on. And I have taken some notes because you know how bad my memory is. But the author Jules Verne wrote a novel called Earth to the Moon, and a lot of things in that. Bearing in mind this was 104 years previous to the moon landing, there were a lot of similarities. Three Americans launching from Florida. That's actually what happened. The similarity in the name of the module and everything. So there's that. And also the shape and size of the module was almost identical to how it was described in the Jules Verne novel.
I like
So
your
yeah.
point here, by the way. Could be a mistranslation. That's nice.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I forgot. I actually forgot that I'd put that comment. But no, I've spoken to a lot of people about this, about basically where it says about homosexuality and man shall not lay with another man.
Mhm.
So many people around the world, including linguists, um, and and other people, even some like really devout Christians, think that it is a mistranslation, and that the mistranslation was discovered, but because of the state of things in regards to homosexuality at the time it was discovered, it wasn't plausible to release the information, and it may never be released officially that it's been mistranslated. But apparently the Vatican, they won't allow it to be released, just like all the manuscripts deep in the vaults, official proof that certain things happened in a very different way than how they're portrayed in the Bible. The Vatican won't allow it to be released.
Well,
Well,
I
all
know
you have to do
I
when
got
it
an
comes to
It'll change everything.
translations is to look at the two most common versions of the Holy Bible, complete, New and Old Testament, and look at the new NIV, the New English version, or NIV, New
International version. Yeah.
International Version, and then the King James. In Matthew, where it says they're talking about shall not inherit the kingdom of heaven. In the NIV, it says homosexual. You read it in King James, it says effeminate. That's the word, effeminate. But then that word, if you go back to New Aramaic, Old Aramaic, and Hebrew, and so on, that word keeps getting translated. It was not originally homosexual,
yeah,
which is
it's gross.
NIV.
And when my alt-right
yeah.
buddy Pete sat me down and made me read Romans, he threw me this Bible that was from this group, and it was translated again, and then it had all these notes below it on how you should think of what you just read, and it's in perfect English. And I'm like, okay, first of all, from what I know, King James got a bunch of smart people together and looked at the translation into the old English and went,
bunch of these and thous.
yeah, and he looked at it and he
Oh,
went,
yeah.
this reads like a magazine. This doesn't read like a book. And so I know that the order was changed to make it read more like a book and less like a magazine. And then Constantine had it in a certain order. I know that. When everything was canonized and this book was thrown out and that book.
The Book of Enoch was thrown out in 300. Was it 300 AD?
300 AD.
Council
was
of
the-
Nicaea.
It was more recent than that.
Yeah.
When was Enoch taken out?
I think in the 13 or 1400s.
Yeah, so
Wow.
we're missing, a good piece of. By the way, that piece of the Bible does talk a little bit about extraterrestrials.
Oh, really cool. Yeah. Is that Katie? We cut you off. Go ahead.
But no, there's a lot of mistranslation. But I'm glad you brought extraterrestrials up, Tyson, because by definition, God's an alien.
Yeah, we were saying
Exactly.
that there.
It wasn't born on Earth. You know, by definition, that is alien.
So are
You know,
angels.
Aliens,
exactly.
angels, God,
Yeah.
they can all exist at the same time. We don't have to get in
Demons, they're extraterrestrial.
Exactly. And, you know, I mean, I got kicked out of Sunday school for saying, what if aliens handed Moses the Ten Commandments? You know, I was like 5 years old at the time, but yeah, I got kicked out of Sunday school for that. And it was a genuine question. And you know, it's one of them. Some people you can have this conversation with. Other people, they're just like, oh my God, you are blasphemous, get away from me. And it's like, all right, well, chill. But it's just it's a very complicated topic, and when you start mixing science into it as well, especially science fiction, I mean, a lot of like really hardcore, almost like fanatical Christians of whatever denomination of Christianity, they were trying to get science fiction banned at one point because of all the alien stuff, and you know, and yet they use some of the technology that we have today that was based on science fiction. And it's just like, well, hold on a minute, that's a bit hypocritical. If you're trying to get science fiction banned because of all of this, why are you using technology that comes straight from what you're trying to get banned?
There's Katie, there's certain parts of the Bible in the Old Testament, even the book of Job mentions it. It's like reading C.S. Lewis or Tolkien, because they talk about satyrs and minotaurs and a tribe of men, you know, humanoids, but they had the head of a lion. That stuff's in the Bible. Most people, I don't know if they just skip right over when they're reading it. And Manu's talking about, you know, oh, God was angry. And I've had this conversation with a few people. Well, why did God tell Moses to wipe these, just go around and kill everybody? He didn't tell Moses and Joshua to kill everybody. It was only a specific few tribes. And those tribes happened to be descendants of Nephilim, which were, you know, in God's sight, they were abominations because they were created by the angels that rebel. So that's
angel human hybrids.
Angel
human hybrids.
Yeah.
So he wasn't going around like wiping everybody out. That's a misnomer. But
yeah,
most people don't take the time.
No, but he was like he seems you know, he seems to be, Jesus seems to talk a lot about like the old law. My father's old law is no more.
Yeah, it's about grace.
Yeah.
I can eat bacon now, and I love that.
Bacon is life.
Yes. Okay. So, you know, I want to go back to the cool idea of what happens a lot with science fiction and a lot with fiction in general. Writers will write something, and 200 years later it becomes reality, or 50 years later it becomes reality. It's writing can be an inspirational thing, and I think some people like Jules Verne, like etc. I think when you write, a lot of times you're taking these ideas out of the ethos, out of whatever this reality is, right? Mm-hmm. And they may not just be coming from your gray matter. You might be interpreting the future. You might be seeing things, because especially science fiction, when you're writing about 2,000 years from now, maybe we take a train maybe we make trains to the moon, whatever, and then it happens. You see the flip phones on Star Trek, right? And then we get these flip phones. Yeah. I think of that very often that goes all the way to the argument of art interpreting life, or life interpreting art, right? I mean, I think we inspire people with storytelling, and then scientists and people that are more that type go about seeing if it actually can be made. And I think that's a really
3D printers. They're based loosely on the replicator system from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Man, that laser thing of that dragon, Chinese looking dragon, that's just mind
cutting the stone. That was beautiful. But to Katie's point, we can create 3D objects with a little scanner going back and forth, which might be a proto replicator.
Yeah.
From Star Trek, right? Eventually, we'll be able to matter synthesize
Well, you can even print metal now. They have 3D printers that print metal.
metal. Yeah.
Oh,
There's
they
different
print
kinds of metal.
food. Did you see the cheesecake they're able to print?
Yeah.
They can print a
that's
cheesecake.
fantastic.
Yeah.
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 So there is actually something in, I don't know if this is Mudflood, but there's a theory about reality in general that at one point that on this earth, they did have this massive, amazing technology, and mountains and canyons and all these beautiful structures that we see in America are actually dig sites, and that the deserts are actually where all that dirt ended up in the world, and that there was things here. I think they were looking for our gold or something, and I don't remember where I saw this theory, but it was pretty fascinating because they showed these big machines that the excavator machines that we have now that dig these things that look like mini versions of canyons that I've driven through in Utah and Oregon. And I'm like, if the machine was just 200 times bigger or 2,000 times bigger, yeah, that's what it would make. So who knows what reality is. I love it. And I love science fiction because I think science fiction is one of the ways that the people that do know what reality is give us little hints through science fiction quite a bit.
We have one more speaker before you wrap this up. We're at an hour 19, and there's only one way to introduce this
on.
speaker. Mike's on. Mike's on. You ready? You ready?
All right, here we go.
How's everyone
I want a
doing tonight?
Budweiser now.
I got natty ice.
That'll work. That'll work.
There you go. How's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
Great show.
Great. How are you, Chris?
Yeah.
Doing good. Doing good. Yeah, the laser etching thing, that was really cool. I had seen that somewhere before. I can't remember where, but that's really interesting. And you go back to the ancient structures and all, that's more than likely pointing towards the way they did that. I don't think they carved out all that shit with chicken bones, to be honest.
No.
And the money thing, that was
is
really
wild.
cool.
Yeah.
Dude, I've got a
when
microscope.
this show ends, I have $100 bill in my pocket. I'm going home and I'm getting out my magnifying glass that my lady's grandma had, and I'm going to town on that $100 bill. I want to see.
And I'll share one more thing about the laser stuff before we wrap up. Go ahead, and Chris, please.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, I've got a microscope. It came from a 1960s Army research base, so it's like 20 pounds. It's like that tall. It's one of those big heavy things. I'm going to take $100 bill. Look at that. That just flipped me out, especially in the blue mark with the alien head in there. That was
crazy.
just like.
Oh, that was cute. That was really cute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotta check it out.
So the guy that linked the video, he had another video, I think in the same thread. I just couldn't find it before I jumped on. And I'm sure you guys have seen these. I think they're CO2 lasers, and they're usually used on metal to it burns all the rust away. Now, if you understand enough about laser is a certain frequency of light. And this guy took a different color cloth, like a red cloth, a green cloth, a blue cloth, yellow cloth, and he took that same tool, and you can also, you can clean metal, but you can also weld with it because it will melt metal. And when he went over anything blue, the blue cloth did not burn. So that means that the frequency light laser coming out of that is similar to the color of the cloth. So it's like in the same spectrum of color. And then he went and showed a clip from Maui, showed where all these cars were burned, but there were 3 blue umbrellas and there was a blue car and they were unburned. I don't know if that's real or not. I got to fact check that. But when I saw it, I was like, because actually I know that to be true because I play with lasers, and if you get a green laser, they give you like yellow goggles, and if you get a blue laser, they give you like a almost reddish purple goggles. And if you get a red laser, they give you a different color. So it protects your eyes, and it's something about canceling out the frequencies. But when I
One
saw
thing,
that,
you're absolutely correct. And one thing, again, with ham radio, I'm very familiar with the electromagnetic spectrum, which light is, and light amplification through stimulated emissions of radiation. That's a laser. Now, there are different ways to create a laser. There's neon. There's helium. And they will produce a different light. Now, light, like anything else, is affected by that color spectrum. White. Here's an easy experiment, right? Take anything painted white and anything painted black, put it outside for an hour, touch the white part and it's not very hot. Touch the black part and it's hot, right? Light will heat up. Well, a laser looks for its counter. If you have a red laser, it's going to burn really good through blue, but it won't burn very good through red. Red reflects red, right? It's not going to burn red. If you have a green laser, it's going to burn, really good through red. It'll slightly burn through green. It won't burn through through blue, but it won't burn through green. Won't burn through green. Yeah. Right. Yeah. The light from the laser has to have its polar opposite to have the strongest effect, and anything above or below its polar opposite, it'll burn to a lesser degree until you get to its exact color, and then it won't do anything.
Exact frequency, yeah.
Well, yeah. You're speaking about the lasers that could have possibly created these Maui fires, right? Here's something that
this is for entertainment purposes only.
Of course. But this,
you don't want the miners at YouTube whacking this video.
No, for me, I'm not. This is just a discussion. It's fun. I don't have any belief system that I'm trying to push on anybody. But I personally believe that as soon as Ronald Reagan started talking about Star Wars and weapons in space, the idea that we don't have space assets that are weapons of some kind is ridiculous for you.
Of course we do. Oh my God. You think forget it. You know what? I did Alzheimer's, it wasn't real. Sorry. Bullshit. Of course it's up. You know what? It's only gotten better.
Yeah.
That is
I've
what
seen
it is.
enough videos of these actual systems being shot at things in space.
Right.
Also, there's what was I going to say? Lasers, space. I just totally blanked out. They just shot.
Well, it's only got whatever assets we had in the 1980s, right? Yeah. Which would have been 40 years ago.
Yeah.
You think we don't have something better up there today?
Yeah. And of course, it's a war asset because we're in a world filled with nation states, and
of course.
Tesla built something he called the Death Ray, and he used a ruby, and he ran light through this ruby, that was cut a special way. He was basically making a direct energy weapon, but they called it a Death Ray. But yeah, that first iteration of Star Wars weapons, it was a chemical laser, and they had massive power supplies that managed the chemical reaction output of these lasers, and it was in a 747.
Yeah, that's
they fly it around.
47. Yeah, and
on the nose cone.
It came out the
back when they had to have laser tubes. There was no laser emitting diode.
And those things were amazing. I think they could shoot down planes like hundreds of miles away. So
and that was like 1984, 85.
Yeah. So I think
Ruby's always confounded me because I could never get all the colors. I always had to peel the stickers off and
Did you eat some hallucinogens tonight, Mr.?
Yeah, I went to Rubik's Cube all of a sudden. I don't know.
Hey guys, I got to bow out. I promised my wife an hour, and I got.
No, hey, the show's over. The show's over.
An hour. An hour. My husband only ever got 5 minutes. My God, you have stamina.
Chris,
my wife is handicapped, so and the home care nurse that we hired he's got the weekend off. So
okay,
so and now I feel like an asshole. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
It's okay.
that's not what we were trying to do.
Okay. No, I wasn't trying to shame you. It's all-
Chris, I love you. Thanks for coming on as our
Love
guest.
you too, brother.
And we'll see you. We'll
Thank
see
you.
you.
I'll join anytime, man. I love
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
Like,
this is
God
fun.
bless you guys.
God
Take
bless
care.
you too.
You too.
Okay, bye.
See you, dude.
Yeah, Chris is fun. Leftwich, thank you for joining us and closing the show with us. Anything else you want to add before we sign out?
Doing an overtime show tonight.
No, I don't think so. I think we might have just ended overtime officially. I'm not sure. What happens?
Okay.
What happens is we always get to the end of the show. We always go long, and then I need to run home, and then an overtime show pops on, and at some point it's probably going to go by the wayside. Tonight I might be able to pop one on in my car. If I can pop one on and do it in my car, then I'll do one.
Just to be fair, though, this show is scheduled to be a 1-hour show, and we've already gone half an hour into overtime. So I feel like we've kind of got the overtime in the in the show.
What's unfair is
All
the poor
crammed
people
into one.
the poor people on Twitter that are expecting an overtime. That's what I feel bad about. But at some point, I just need to make the announcement that if we go over on the live show, then we probably won't do an overtime one.
Well, you said last
I
week. I'm sure
also-
it was last week that it was becoming extinct.
Okay.
I
I
also
think
want to just say that anybody that's on Twitter that enjoys coming into the spaces, when we go into this format on the show, come on and chat with us here. If you don't want to be on video, you can do what Mr. Legacy Zach is doing right now and just have your little profile picture up or what have you, which I don't even think that's him. There he is.
yeah.
But you could always do something like that and just come chat with us here. And we'll run over here and
Yeah, and it's easy to chat with us. You just go to @subscriptpirate, if you can spell subscript pirate on X, and shoot him a little DM, and he'll bring you up on the live feed. Thanks everybody for joining us this week. Thanks Katie. Thanks Chris. Thanks Legacy Zach, and thank you to our special guest, alt-right Christian Gilbert. Chris Gilbert. I never say his name right, even though he's my good friend. Chris Gilbert, not Eric Gilbert, not Christian Gilbert.
Let's just call him Eric. Yeah.
But
Story.
Christian Chris Gilbert, who I love very much. Thank you for coming on and discussing the weird, strange reality that we live in here on Dangerous Thoughts. We'll see you next week with Corin Nemec, and we'll be talking about the Forever War. And
Corin Nemec. Corin Nemec. Oh
Yeah,
my
Corin-
God. I'm so excited.
yeah, it'll
Corin
be
Nemec.
fun. And Corin, if you know Corin is a great actor from Parker Lewis Can't Lose and Stargate. And he also is sort of an expert on the history of corruption in this country and all the weird things that have been done behind.
Really quick note before we go. Strasberg is my married name. That's Michael's last name. When I married him, I took his last name. My biological name is Tyson Parker. So I had a special affinity for Parker Lewis Can't Lose because growing up, it was another Parker, right? I was so happy about that. So Tyson
And he couldn't
Parker,
lose. And we're winning,
he couldn't
right?
lose,
We're
yeah.
winning. We're
Hey,
winning.
Parker's not losing. Loved him. So I can't wait to have him next week.
Mhm. All right, so tune in next Sunday at 6, and good night, everybody. Keep having dangerous thoughts. Question your reality. Question your government. Don't take anything for granted, and try to question your government, man. I mean, come on,
Sure.
don't trust those guys. The American system has been broken for so long and still operating at a place that gives us hot pockets and dumbed down people like us on the internet. But it's been broken for a very long time. Our senators, our congressmen, our presidents, they're all puppets to another stronger power. And we'll talk about all that next week on the Forever War with Corin Nemec.
Now I want to have a hot pocket.
Go have a hot pocket and watch something mind-numbing and go to bed. That's what they want from you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
See y'all later.